you, our attendees. Joining us today will be Mr. Ajay Bakaya, the Managing Director of Sarovar Hotels. I would like to ask a visionary question. Let us assume that a vaccine is effectively produced and distributed during the first half of 2021. From your perspective, please describe to us how the tourism sector will look like and what needs to be done to adapt to the new reality.
Mohammed, let me first please present my credentials and tell the audience what I'm doing here in the first place, considering most of our 100 hotels are in India. We have a significant presence in Africa. We are operating in several countries in English-speaking Africa, largely East and South Central. So at the moment, we have 2 properties in Nairobi, and the Nairobi situation is still pretty bleak. Our occupancies are around the 20% mark. We have a hotel in Lusaka, which is closer to the 50% mark. Lusaka is more lucky or more blessed. We have, interestingly, properties ready to open in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. We have a large one under development in Hargeisa in Somaliland. And we have another development in Aksum in Tigray, which is currently under focus for not so hospitable reasons. So we have a reasonable understanding of Africa. Now, in the context of what's happened pre-COVID and today, yes, there has been a major knock on business. And any businesses or any hotels which were over leveraged and have a lot of loans to repay would find themselves in particularly dire or difficult, challenging situations. And I think that's the key. If your debt is manageable, you have a future. If not, it's still a tough road ahead. We've had to lay off some people, but we've largely tried to accommodate as many as possible with lower salaries or with adjusted salaries. And in some countries like Lusaka, the state prevents people from being laid off. So we've retained every single employee. And luckily, there has been enough business to support that. Now, let's assume a vaccine is available in the second half of next year. By and large, Africa has been luckier than the rest of the world. And we still don't know why. Maybe it's the genetics, it's the better gene pool as far as COVID is concerned. But you people are more blessed. The number of cases are smaller, barring 1 or 2 countries. The fatalities are lower, and overall the scenario is not too bad. Now, it's a question of what vaccine becomes available for distribution to Africa. And I believe the WHO has already reserved a few million doses for distribution to the poorer countries in the world, or to the more challenged countries in the world. And I'm sure Africa is going to be part of that. But some of these vaccines need temperatures of -20 to -80 to transport. And I think that cold chain itself is going to cause a bit of a problem. So Africa would probably need something that's more distribution friendly, and one that is, obviously, a cost is always a factor. That is administered at a cost that is reasonable and affordable to a large number of people for it to be effective. Assuming all that happens, let's say in July, in Q3 of 2021, I would give it another 6 months before we get anywhere close to pre-COVID levels. It's going to take time for confidence to build up. It is going to take time for flight frequencies and flight loads to build up. It is going to take time for governments to relax processes on quarantine and on test requirements, etc., etc., etc. The international fraternity is not flying at all, or they're flying really in dire need. So the market has fallen off the international traveler, that they've just disappeared. And I think that's going to take some time to get back to any level of normalcy. So while I don't want to be the gloom and doom pessimist, I think if we have a vaccine in July, we're looking at near normalcy in November, December, or early 2022. Mohammed?
Thanks a lot for your insights. Very valuable information. If we just give it a guess, by which year do you think things will be going back to normal?
I guess it's 2022, Mohammed. Yes. I'm always an optimist, and I think that's a fair yardstick to go on. Positive things are beginning to happen. There are positivity signs going on across the world. The U.S. administration is very likely settling in now. The new administration is going to settle in, so that's a positive sign. There are not one or two, but several vaccines in the last stages of development. Some have got the nod to produce commercially. A lot of them have shown positive results in their trials. So I think, and I think, end of the day, it's going to be impossible to tie people down to their desks and say purely work from home or work. You don't need to travel anymore. Just do everything on meetings on Zoom meetings. So I reckon 2022 would be a good normal year where we can probably cheer once again.
Thank you. I sit on a board of an association called the Jordan Trail, which is a hiking trail that is 650 kilometers long, and it's to the eastern side of the Great Rift Valley, which is an extension of Africa in a way. So I'm speaking about Africa in a way as well. So what we're seeing is that when travel was limited, a lot of people started going on these hikes. There are homestays on the way, local communities benefit, and this links very well with sustainable tourism, I think that Dr. Pappas spoke about. Ajay, would you like to comment on this from your perspective and how the sectors has been evolving recently?
Yeah, I'd like to join in some of the discussion that's happened in the last few minutes. And I sincerely believe that it would be foolhardy for Africa to believe that the problem lies only outside of Africa and is transported in by people coming in. We made the same mistake in India. I remember discussions in my local gym months ago where I said, we guys are so used to all kinds of infection, we're not going to face any problem here at all. And we've had more than a regular share of people dying, passing away, and of cases. So I think the answer to anything is that it is universal, whether it is testing, whether it is vaccination, whether it is any follow-up treatment, whether it's future development of better care and medication, because the disease may mutate. So I think we've all got to be really extra careful. COVID has more than turned the world upside down and spun it in the wrong direction. And I think one lesson from it is that, just be more careful than you can ever imagine and think for a better world and for a safer world. On the sustainable side, I must confess that in our case, sustainability has taken a little bit of a beating. We were going very strong, for example, on eliminating the use of single-use plastic in hotels. So we did not have plastic bottles in our hotel guest rooms. We weren't using plastic in banquets. We weren't using plastic in restaurants. All replaced by glass bottles, much better from the environmental point of view. But the moment COVID happened, guests said, "Hello, I want to perceive something that is safe and clean and sealed and hygienic, etc., etc." So we had to withdraw some of those steps, and it's a sad and unfortunate situation. But I think with COVID, some sustainability methods, some sustainability initiatives that we took have taken a bit of a backseat. So I think it's sort of wide open. Yes, Laetitia mentioned about leisure being the better alternative, and I think she's very right. And in my opinion, leisure stays which are close to large cities. So if you can drive out an hour or two or three and be in a location which is closer to nature, which is safe, which is secure, and which offers a non-cookie cutter experience. Not only for the traveler from within the city, but even for weddings, for incentive functions, for conferencing, you're close to home and you're far away. So it works both ways, and the costs are lower. I think there's great opportunity there for most hotel people. Mohammed?
Yes, and one of the also negative impacts this has had is what I hear from areas where they have safaris, because now a lot of the animals are under threat because the tourists who used to support the local economies are no longer coming and people need food. So this is something that really needs to be addressed. I have a question from the audience before I continue with the questions I have. A guy from Tanzania who currently works in Abu Dhabi is asking, what steps can be taken by hoteliers to promote local tourism post-COVID-19, and how can African hospitality professionals handle both local and international guests gradually, considering COVID-19 recovery will take time?
I think the answer is that the world wants to go to places that they believe are safe and secure. Purely
Yes.
in this case from a hygiene point of view. So all the processes that have been laid out, all the best practices that have been laid out, whether it's WHO, whether it is local governments, whether it is local hotel associations, and over and above all of that, the question we need to ask ourselves in Africa is how can we be the best in the world in these measures? So
Yes.
from foot mats that you step on before you enter, from sanitation procedures all over the place, from elevator buttons being touchless, from your check-in, etc., being touchless. There's now very economical options available where you don't have to go to a reception desk and collect your keys at all. You know, it can all happen. Even if you have to collect your keys, they're there in a sealed envelope. You just have to go along and pick it up. In restaurants, no paper menus, but something you can simply pick up off a QR code and scan and order. Both good and bad. You could order directly now to the kitchen, so you don't need a server there at all. But at least the point of view of no paper contact. So I think all of those things, the fact that your room is well fumigated. We're following a system of sanitizing rooms and leaving them vacant for 24 hours after every departure. So we just seal the room post sanitization, and obviously it's now practical. May or may not be practical when we go to 70, 80, 90% occupancies and more financial pragmatism takes place. But every possible procedure in the book, and it doesn't cost very much in terms of hygiene, in terms of sanity, and very visible processes. So you have people walking around with gloves, you have people walking around with masks. Anybody who has anything to do with touching a surface or with food contact must be wearing gloves. Every employee should be wearing masks. In a restaurant, in a dining space, we insist that guests are wearing their masks unless except for the time that they're eating. The more of this that is visible to a guest, the safer he feels in a hotel or in the country. So for a country, the process has to start at an airport, and the taxi driver or the transport driver.
Yes.
I think once you convey this feeling of safety, people will come back more and more.
So you're building trust through better health and well-being standards for the time being, and then when things start opening up, this will still be beneficial because I think health will still be a priority even post-COVID-19. Excellent answer. Thanks a lot, Mr. Bakaya. And I would like to ask you, let us assume you had an extra $15 million in your pocket and you could invest them anywhere in the world. Where, when, and how will you go about investing them?
Thank you. I hope you give me at least an IOU for $15 million. So some comfort, a slip in my pocket. But Mohammed, I would go to Africa. I would go today, and as I said, I would look for a city with a large population, and a city and a country that's perceived as being safe and secure. I would go out of the main city, 2 to 3 hours driving, and look for a piece of land that is undulating, that is in the middle of nature, and that is cheap. I'm moving out of the city because land becomes cheap. I would buy 10 to 15 acres, and I would build anything starting from 50 rooms upwards on it, with lots of activities thrown in, lots of space for a person to walk around, and a non-cookie cutter hotel. So not the standard rooms, but maybe a cluster of cottages or townhouses or something to offer people a good break. And I think there's plenty of scope there. There's plenty of money to be made there at the right time and in the right place.
Excellent. So your choice is Africa. Excellent. So we have a comment here, I think it's a comment, not a question, from a guy in Egypt who's saying that the sector is suffering a lot and it needs international support in order to preserve the future of people, wildlife, and historical sites, I believe, around the continent. So maybe this is something we mention here so that if anybody from the international sector or financial sector or whatever is listening, maybe this is something that really requires a lot of support.
My concluding comments are that we still have our fight cut out in front of us. We still have some struggle to go. We still have a few months of survival, and I hope all businesses can get over this hump and be there when better times come. Echoing another thing I want to add here is that not only is it about how safe you are at a hotel. The question is, if I pick up infection and I'm unwell, how well organized is the hotel to arrange my testing, to arrange me to get to a decent hospital, to arrange doctors for me? And that info should be available on my hotel website. I would not even dream of retaining money from anyone. We're not insisting on advances right now. And we are following a 100% refund policy. If somebody has to cancel for whatever reason, we don't ask any questions. I think the next 6 to 12 months is all about RevPAR and filling up your occupancies rather than insisting on business practices that are going to keep people away from you. So I think the world has seen the worst. I think we are in for better days. But and I also hope that all of us learn the lessons from this pandemic and are better prepared to handle a similar situation if it ever were to happen again. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Change is the only constant. The face of the future, the tourism sector would be totally different, or to a certain extent at least, but it will be different. I would really like to thank all of you for a wonderful dialogue we had, and for all the insights, wisdom, and knowledge that you shared with us today and with the audience. Thanks a lot. And with this, I conclude this session. Bye for now.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Laetitia. Ioannis, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.